And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fairway to Heaven right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Do us that favor. Hit the like, the subscribe, turn notifications button on the YouTube page. It is the best place to get interactive with the show as we start breaking down this week's Charles Schwab Challenge at Colonial Country Club, along with recapping last week's PGA Championship. It was an epic PGA Championship. A lot of great stories coming out of it. So we're going to get into all of that today. And of course, we're going to talk Michael Block and, the fact that he charges $125 an hour for a lesson and just won like $300,000. It's got to be addressed a little bit. So we'll get into all that. I'm Phil Stiefel, your host, and sitting next to me again back this week is Jason Sullivan, Jay Sully 2121. Good evening, my man. How you feeling tonight?
What's up, bud? I'm excited still. It's like this part of the golf season is probably the best part of the season. I feel like you had a major championship, and sometimes there's like a letdown after a major. But it's like we got this week, we got an elevated event next week, and then we're the U.S. Open's in 35 days or something. So
hey, Sergio Garcia just birdied 30 minutes ago the 18th hole and qualified for
the
U.S.
Really?
Open. Yes, awesome. He did go through the full section qualifying and it birdie 18 to qualify, and he made the birdie. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's like, I'm actually surprised that this week has such a deep feel, considering you had the PGA Championship last week and the elevated event next week. There's a really good group of golfers in this event with some elite guys, and I think it's part because of Texas. All the great there's a lot of great PGA golfers from Texas, and they all show up for their home state and stuff like that. Yeah, Block is your new Sue. No. I should have listened to you, Kyle, and bet Justin Sue again. Although I think he tapered off at the weekend. I'm not sure where he finished. But yeah, Justin Sue, Michael Block, just stop. I'll bet Justin Sue 1,000 times over Michael Block. We'll just start right there. Everybody, Michael Block. Jason, is that not one of the greatest sports stories of the last 2 or 3 years? Michael Block, a PGA professional, not just making the cut, but sort of semi in contention right through Sunday. I mean, that is one of the greatest stories of all time.
Semi in contention. Could you imagine just like a normal dude and you're playing on a Sunday pairing with Rory? Like that's about as cool as it gets. Like I mean,
and you knock in a hole in one, you don't realize it's a hole in one. He's jumping up and down and hugging you, and you're like, what? Like his reaction all weekend to all the interviews, all this stuff. I mean, you gotta love the guy. It doesn't make him a good DFS play. It does not make him a good bet, but he is. I mean, it's a sensational story. And then you see the video of him getting the phone call from the Colonial, and saying we would like to give you an exemption, and he's like, well, I got to ask my boss if I'm allowed off first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the story. I mean, it's like a Hallmark story, like made for TV, right there.
I think the coolest part about it, the whole thing, is that he plays well the first 2 days. Everybody was talking about him, especially Saturday, and then he comes out Sunday and he plays well again. It's like you can't even write this. Like you said, it's like a Hallmark story almost. It's like, I mean, you can't even write this stuff.
I didn't tweet it out, but I was sitting there. I watched nonstop golf on Saturday and Sunday. I think there was really good coverage of the event this weekend. Some events get great coverage. Some, I think the Golf Channel could do a better job, and I think the PGA Tour could do a better job of covering golf as a whole. But there was really good coverage of it. And I'm sitting there watching the early morning coverage on Saturday. I'm like, this guy's going to go out on Saturday and shoot a 78.
Yeah, I thought he was going to shoot like a plus 10 that day.
Yeah, I'm like, this is not going to happen. And then I thought the same thing on Sunday. I'm like, there's no way this guy, with how he doesn't hit the ball far, he's not a great golfer by any means. He's better than us, but he's nowhere near on these levels. And he just hung around. And it was amazing to watch him not crumble under that pressure. I can't remember any other story like this in golf or sports in general recently at all.
No, and it's like I think we kind of all thought he'd make the cut. Once it started, you started to see it develop. You're like, okay, he'll make the cut. Like you said, fadeaway, finish 65th or something like that. I mean, to finish T15 to qualify for the PGA again next year, that's awesome.
And now he's in Colonial. He's at the Charles Schwab at Colonial this week. He's in the RBC and later on down the line already.
He's playing in the Canadian Open too, I think, right?
I mean, these invites are just going to start rolling in. His boss is probably going to fire him over it. But I saw something key today, and I know a lot of people want to bet him and play him. So I did look it up. So his top 20 number is you can get 10-1 on him to finish top 20 this week. A weaker field, a smaller field, and it's still 10-1 from the finish top 20. And top 40 is still plus 260. So his odds of even making the cut aren't strong. And I saw somebody tweet it out. I should have written it down. I didn't. But he's played in 4 or 5 PGA championships before, never making the cut. But he's also played in 4 or 5 other smaller events over the last 10 years. And the PGA championship was his first cut ever made. And between the major and non-majors, he's missed 9 of 9 cuts before this week. So this is like a swan song, a great story, a Cinderella story, if you want to use the Caddyshack term. But realistically speaking, his 5 minutes of fame is going to go up pretty quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole world's rooting for him now. But I mean, like you said, he's not that talented of a golfer. We know it's like.
Do you know that, Kyle, that he could play well at Colonial? Or are you just saying that because he said that to the guy on the phone, you know?
Well, you know what? They say that at Colonial, you need to be a solid all-around player. He doesn't really stand out in any areas, but he's just solid. I don't know. I feel like
I can't, like, again, I'm not taking anything away from him. I'm just saying it's not a smart money move to throw bets his way, to even play him in DraftKings or anything like that. But
even in DraftKings, like you were saying, like even in DraftKings, there's some pretty good golfers around him. I mean, actual legit PGA pros are around him. So I don't know.
Again, and for a non-elevated event after a major event, it's a deep field. There's 7 or 8 of the top 20 golfers. There's a lot of the top 50 in this. It's a great field. So you don't need to take, like, there's chances to take in a DraftKings board, but you don't have to take a chance. I'd rather, like, Michael Block is the type of story, I'd rather just root on him and root for him. I don't want to hear, or I don't want my money tied up in him. You know what I mean? Where I'm pissed when he misses the cut or, double bogeys a hole. Like, I just want to enjoy the ride. And when it's over, it's over. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the kind of guy that's going to win you money. I mean, like, the story was awesome. Chances are that was as good as it's going to get, really. I mean, for him, which is pretty damn awesome.
Is he really going to go top 20 back-to-back weeks? No. So if you bet that 10-1 on him top 20, you're just donkeying off money right there. No problem. Yeah. And that's where the sports books make their money, on people that just go fishing for those kind of, feel-good stories versus, the realistic bets and stuff like that.
Real quick, is that a Shane Falco jersey to your right?
Yeah, that's been hanging there for a long time. It normally tucks behind the Harden, but Harden and Joel are tucked down, hidden, because they don't deserve to be shown on screen anymore. But yeah,
sorry,
it cost me a ton of money at the Sugar Bowl,
He did. Footsteps Falco.
Yeah. Footsteps Falco, the greatest quarterback to never play in the NFL, right there.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But there was a lot of feel-good stories this week. Obviously, I want to talk about Brooks Koepka. We'll get into this week's Charles Schwab in a little bit. But Brooks Koepka, I got a serious problem, maybe a confession. I don't know. Brooks Koepka, up to about 2 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago at the Masters, to an extent, was probably one of, if not my least favorite golfer on tour. I just thought he was smug, he was arrogant, only cared about the majors, not the, goes to live. His episode of Full Swing, his woman was annoying as hell, I thought. I couldn't stand Brooks. And I had majority of my money on Victor Hovland again, and he comes up short again. But I'm sitting there watching on Sunday, and I'm like, if Victor Hovland doesn't win, I was actually rooting Brooks Koepka on. And all of a sudden, I kind of feel like something in my mind, maybe he grew up a little bit, he's changed personality-wise, but I like Brooks Koepka, and I'm glad he got another win, and I think it's great for the game of golf. I know the live story is what it is, but I think it's great for the game of golf that he was able to win another major.
I agree with all the things you said. He is smug. He's still smug. He's arrogant. We know.
Were you watching when he walked off the course? Sorry to interrupt you. Walked off the course to go sign his scorecard, and I couldn't find a replay of it anywhere online. Somebody in a PGA suit stuck out their hand to shake his hand as he was walking to sign his scorecard, and he totally blew him off. It had to be one of the head PGA guys. But if anybody's watching this, can find that video for me. I'd love to see it again, to see who that person was. That he's like this, and Brooks is like, just looked the other way and walked right on by him.
I think he's still that guy. I think it humbled him a little bit. And I think it's funny that the takeaway from pretty much anybody, even non-golf fans that watch the the documentary on Netflix. What was it called again? Full Swing. So, like, pretty much everybody that takes away from that is that Jenna Sims is the worst, pretty much, which is hilarious. They're like, yeah, I don't like Brooks, but Jenna Sims is the absolute worst. But I don't know. I do think that he regrets going to live. I think, there was rumors that he was talking about coming back to the PGA Tour and all that stuff like that. He just seemed happy. I don't know. It's like he seemed like a different Brooks. Like he was genuinely happy to be there, which normally he's so smug and arrogant. So
Do you think there's because there's definitely game wise and his performance wise that was affected by the injury, obviously, right? I mean, he was injured for how many years? He just did not look right. And do you think there's an element of the injury and the fact that he thought maybe he would never get healthy because it was a good 2-3 year battle? Is that maybe why he went to live it? Let me get the payday. I'm never going to compete at a major level again. Let me get the payday. And now he is, like you're saying, possibly regretting it because he realizes, oh shit, if I would have given it another 6 months, I would have gotten healthy and look where my game is and whatever with Liv. But it's not the same level of competition overall.
right.
It's not, in my opinion. And he wants to compete against the best.
Do you think that helps him? Do you think it helps him being on Live where they don't play as much? They don't, he's playing once every 3 weeks or whatever instead of playing every week. Maybe that's better for his leg.
I don't know if his knee would have healed with the elevated events and being forced to play. Like we've talked about it this year countless times on the show, how Rory looks off because of the added pressure of extra events, all the media tours he's got to do. Brooks would have been, not to Rory's extent, but Brooks would have been in some of those media calls. Brooks would have had a little bit more responsibility if he stayed. So maybe there is an element that Liv actually did good for him, but now he does regret it because he's back to old Brooks. And you don't think he'd want to tee it up this week at Colonial or next week at the elevated event? And can the Liv guys play on the U.S. Open if they're still qualified? Yeah, so he can still play in the 4 majors because he's qualified for them all. But I'm sure he would like to play in some of these other big events, the Players Championship, stuff like that. So I don't know. I think there's a little bit of regret, but also maybe Liv helped him get back to this point. And at least we get 4 times a year of Brooks Koepka.
What's your stance on the Ryder Cup, Liv guys in the Ryder Cup?
Oh man, I mean, I'm so torn. I just literally like 30 minutes ago read what's his name, that ass hat from the Golf Channel, Brandon Chambly or Brandon
Chambly,
him just saying that if they let him play on the Ryder Cup, it was equal to allowing. You're saying it was okay that Saudi, housed, how many of the 9/11 terrorists, and he was making a comparison between 9/11 and Brooks Koepka playing on the Ryder Cup team, and I was like, look, I was against it because I'm against Liv. I'm against what they stand for.
Me too, for sure.
Money people, but Brooks Koepka is money. He sells tickets. He makes golf entertaining, and he's one of the best American golfers, period. So if you want to win the Ryder Cup, why wouldn't you want him on the team?
Well, that's the thing, too. Like he said, what if I come out and play really well? So now he has a second and a win. What if he comes out in the next 2 majors and goes T10, T8 or something? It's like top 10s in all the majors.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know. I think I've been against. I mean, Chambly said something on one of the broadcasts this weekend, and even Brad Faxton, like, there's a video of him just like literally live on the air, like, what did you really just say? Like, you're taking it too far. Again, I don't stand for the Saudi Arabian Crown Prince money funds and where it comes from and all that stuff. But I've moved on and past my hatred for Liv to the extent where, this weekend and even the Masters to an extent, I think show that there needs to be some form of, at some point, it won't happen this year, but down the line, there's going to have to be some, connection. They're going to have to work together in some form because you're going to lose people like Brooks Koepka, from playing in events. And Brooks Koepka now will be in majors for a few more years by winning the PGA Championship. But a lot of the big names are going to fall out of these majors.
Yeah.
You're going to lose Cam Smith. You're going to lose Dustin Johnson eventually in some of these majors. You know what I mean? That's big names that people want to watch.
And you have to admit, like, I completely agree with you with all the Liv stuff. I'm anti-Liv. I will never watch a Liv shot, all that stuff.
By the way, I did the week before the Masters. I did try to watch the Liv Tour for this show to, like, all right, who am I going to bet? Yeah. Any of these guys need it. I literally had it on for 3 minutes, and I thought I was watching a NASCAR race with all the graphics. And I'm like,
gimmicky. It's just a big gimmick. It reminds me so much of the XFL, and I said that from the beginning. Like, it reminds me of the XFL. It's a flash in the pan. It's gimmicky. It's but you can't. The hard thing to argue is that golf is just better when all these guys are around. Golf's better with DJ Brooks, Phil. Like, seeing all these guys in a tournament, it's a draw. It makes it more interesting. It makes it more fun. It's like the competition is just so much better. We're seeing a lot of these tournaments. There's been a lot of strong fields, especially with these elevated events, but a lot of these fields have been very top heavy. We're missing the 8K golfers like Patrick Reed, guys like that would kill their gooch.
He had a great week this week. You know what I mean? He was top 20 this week. I was looking. You talk about Brooks, get healthy because of the lighter workload. You see Bryson DeChambeau this week he struggled around the greens this week, but led the field off the tee, driving distance, driving accuracy, all those things. It's funny because I have two polls. I want to get into the first one right here. If any live golfer was to return to the PGA, who would you want it to be? So I put Brooks. I put Cam Smith because he was my guy last year. I loved Cam Smith last year. Bryson and other. And Brooks is blowing this away. A couple hundred votes. 61% of the votes, went Brooks' way. I think some of that is, recency bias because he just won
He's dominated
the championship. But Cam Smith had 17%. Bryson had 15%. And then we had a bunch of write-ins for Dustin Johnson, who I was talking with somebody on Twitter today that Dustin Johnson is past winning a major, I think, at this point, for the most part. We've seen older people win it occasionally, but unless he gets really hot, he's going to always be in contention, but I don't think he's got enough juice to really, really win a major. But there's still a lot of fans that want, when multiple people are commenting, I want to see Dustin Johnson back on tour. That tells you that there are people missing the star power. Kyle misses Harold Varner III. Who misses Harold Varner III? I didn't
people
know
loved him at one point.
I don't know why. I mean, whatever.
I don't know why either.
Why? But maybe the lighter load has helped Brooks and Bryson get healthy. But tell me you wouldn't want to see Bryson back on the PGA Tour occasionally, defending some of his former titles on courses where he could just bomb and gouge. He's going to fall out of contention on having a chance to play in the Masters really soon.
And we've said it too. Like, I know you liked Bryson at one point. I couldn't stand Bryson ever, but I can admit to you 100% the game's better with Bryson there. I mean, he brings eyes. He's a different kind of dude. He's, him walking around with the Ryder Cup umbrella the other day. Like, he's an idiot, but he brings eyes to the to the plate.
I think some of these lift guys, because if you listen to some of because he spoke after a couple of the rounds, I caught some of his post-round interviews, and you can even tell he misses the PGA Tour a little bit.
For sure.
I don't know if he's ready to give up the money to go back, but he wants to be around the full tour occasionally because of the camaraderie. You can only play so many 54 events with no cuts, or 54 hole events with no cuts, until you start to miss the real competitive edge of having to make a cut. Having to make a cut isn't something special there.
And these events where nobody gives a shit. You win, you go out and win. Brooks goes out and wins. DJ goes out and wins. Nobody cares. You can't name. I couldn't name one live Orlando. It's like nobody knows these tournaments.
No, exactly. And there's no like history behind them or anything like that. On the flip side, I did run a second poll. If there was one PGA Tour golfer that you could care less if they left for live, and I put Patrick Cantlay, Rory, Victor Hovland, and other. Over 50% of the people said they could care less if Patrick Cantlay left for live, and Rory got 26.7. I can't even read that screen. 26.6. So I'm surprised that Rory McIlroy got so much of the hate to an extent that they don't care. Like everything we're saying about Brooks and these guys missing them on the tour, we would feel the same way about Rory. I think if he went away for a couple years.
For sure. So if you could pick one guy, say a better golfer, not like some scrub, but like a better golfer that you wouldn't care if they left.
Wouldn't care if they left? I mean, at this point, I wouldn't care if Patrick Cantlay left because he's cost me so much freaking money over my career as a golf handicapper. So I could care less about him. I don't want to see any of them leave because I don't, with the tour and stuff like that. I don't know if I'd have one that I really would miss. But everything we just talked about with Brooks getting healthy and the lighter workload, Rory taking 1 year off and going play and live would probably be the best for Rory's mental sake, to an extent, and getting healthy and, getting fresh, because the overload that he's taking right now, is pretty extreme.
I just wonder if any of these guys, if they decide they want to defect from live, if they're able to, because there was rumors a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw this, that if you wanted to buy yourself out, that the buyout was 1.5 to 2 times your signing bonus. And like Brooks' signing bonus was 150. So like he's not paying $300 million to get out of this contract.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like some. What are you gonna do? Is the Saudi Arabians gonna like hold you accountable if you don't pay them back? Well, they actually might send somebody after you. You never know. What's their name? Might disappear or something like that. I don't know. They might be listening to this because I tagged Live Golf on this in this show.
Just edit out the motion that I just did. I don't even
want what was it? Alice in Wonderland, off with his head. That's basically what they'd be saying.
We joke about this, but like this is what these people do. They're not good people.
I am against the Live Tour because it's a legit conversation, and this stuff legit happens. But anyway, it was a great event, the PGA Championship this week. Michael Block wasn't the only great story. Obviously, Brooks Koepka was a great story as well. Victor Hovland came so close. So one of my employees at my pizza shop, he was like, who'd you bet this week? He doesn't know much about golf, but he wanted to know who I bet and why I thought and whatnot. I mentioned Victor Hovland, and I mentioned how he showed up, and he's like, well, who's he? I'm like, the guy that showed up to the awards banquet with 2 girls instead of 1. And he's like, oh, I love this guy. He's my favorite golfer now. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, will he win? I'm like, I doubt it, because he does have this problem with, controlling his aggressive nature. And it reared its ugly head again. At some point, Victor Hovland's got to, he's in the field this week. It's a non-major, so maybe the pressure's a little less on him. At some point in a major, somebody's got to get into Victor Hovland's ear to dial it back a little bit, because
dial it back a little bit and make a putt.
Yeah, just make a putt. He made a putt
at all.
But when it was the 16th hole, he's like up against a bunker lip, and he gets a free drop. And he screws up because he doesn't hit out of the bunker properly, and then has to take a 2-stroke penalty and stuff like that. And he ends up triple bogeying or double bogeying, falling completely out of it. At some point, someone has to tell him, you're not reaching the green from this bunker. Just pitch it out. Make par. Make bogey. You're fine. You're in contention. And I don't know if he'll ever, dial it back. But at 25, he's the golfer that Patrick Cantlay, I'm starting to move on from him. But Victor Hovland's the guy that I kind of feel like, Victor Hovland's that guy that's kind of, if he could just figure that one aggressive nature out, could probably rattle off some major wins.
He almost needs like that veteran caddy. You know what I mean? Like you saw, like, you've seen a lot of these guys like JT and Scotty go to these like veteran caddies that have a lot of experience with like major championship. You almost need to see Hovland do that.
Yeah.
Like find a guy that's been around that can give him.
Patrick Cantlay did. Patrick Cantlay took Tiger's caddy. And I thought that was going to pay off this week. And again, he was in the top 20. It was a great week, whatever, but something's got to give there. Yeah, Scotty Scheffler was right there. And Scotty Scheffler, the fact that he was able to battle back, I thought we were going to have another repeat of Justin Thomas, who was lurking 4 or 5 strokes behind Kyle. And then he kind of, back 9 on Sunday last year, Justin Thomas kind of slid up the leaderboard. I really thought we were going to see that again from Scotty this year, but Brooks was just unstoppable. I
think it's underrated too with Scotty how good he is. I think people, obviously he gets credit for being good, but I think because he doesn't have the big personality that some of these other guys have, like he's not as charismatic as John Rahm or some of these other guys. It's like I think he doesn't really get the credit for how great he is at golf. Tee to green, he gained like 12 strokes tee to green or 10 strokes tee to green or something last week. Like it's insane.
Right now, I'm sure it's insane. He gained 15.3 strokes.
15 strokes tee to green. That's insane.
Off the tee, 5.7 on approach. He only gained 1.5 strokes putting. So if he gains 2 strokes putting, he probably wins the event. Yeah. He does have an occasional habit of losing his putter a little bit.
He does. But like tee to green is there a better golfer? He just doesn't really get. His floor right now, you're talking like T15 or better.
Yeah, maybe T10 or better is his floor.
T10 you're talking T10 with the C game. Like you're not. He's so good right now.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Well, let's get into this week because that's a good segue because Scotty Scheffler is playing this week, which I'm surprised because that means he's going to be playing 3 weeks in a row. He's going to play PGA Championship this week and next week, elevated event. Scotty Scheffler, we got Colonial. We're at Colonial, storied course, another one of these courses that, it's very repetitive. The people that have success here year in and year out. I saw a stat that I think only twice in the last 20 years, someone has won on this course that hadn't won before on the PGA Tour. So veterans, people that have been around the block, and people that have played this course tend to play the best at Colonial. And Scotty Scheffler is the top dog this week. He finished second in was it Sam Burns he lost in the playoff to last year? So, a guy that knows this course, a Texas native, Texas guys play well in Texas, obviously, all the time. Is it literally Scotty Scheffler versus the field this week?
What's funny is I was looking through the field and looking at on Fantasy National and a couple different places to look at things. And it's like, the best way I can describe it is that Scotty Scheffler is the free square. And I know that he's the most expensive guy, but it's like, how do you not play him? I realize like he might be 60% owned this week. Like legitimately.
What's funny is like, we're looking at the price. He's only 11.5.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you look at it. So the 10K and above, you got Homa, Morikawa, Hovland, Finau, Scheffler in reverse order. Finau's 10-7, Scotty Scheffler's 11-5. Would it have shocked you if DraftKings made him 12-3?
No.
You know what I mean? And it would still have been a good value to play him. Sometimes I feel like DraftKings lately has been the top dog. They've been discounting his price a little too much, which then jumps his ownership percentage up and stuff like that.
Which sometimes I wish they wouldn't, because like you said, if he was 12,000 or 12.3 or something like that, then it makes you make a decision. Like you're going to have to play some of these lower guys. So do you really want to take a chance?
11-5. I built a test lineup before the show, and I did one 6K guy, one low 7K guy, and I was able to build a balanced lineup with Scotty Scheffler in it, because he's only 11-5, and look, he could be 30% owned. I don't care. You've got to put, if you do 20 lineups, he's got to be in 10 to 12 of them probably.
Yeah, I think you just go over. I feel like Scotty, you either go all in with Scotty this week or pretty close to all in, or not at all. That's the way. And I don't know how you. To be honest, I don't know how you go not at all. So
it's John Rahm, and in broadcasting, John Rahm had plenty of great remarks. He does not like camera people getting close to him. We learned that again this past week at the PGA Championship. I was looking at this 10K range. I don't want to get into each and every one of them. Obviously, they're all great golfers. I was looking at projected ownerships, which are always a little off early on. It's only Monday. But if you're going to play Scotty Scheffler, you almost got to fade the rest of this range. Even you could throw 9,900 Jordan Spieth in there a little bit. But Max Homa, who second on par far scoring last 36, seventh on approach, great iron player, doesn't make bogeys, a really solid putter, is literally, I think I saw about 10% projected ownership early on Max Homa compared to 18 to 30% for all the other guys up top. Do you fade Scotty Scheffler and everybody else and play Max Homa? Do you play or do you play Scotty Scheffler and Max Homa, or do you just play Scotty Scheffler and that's it in this range?
For me, it's Scotty. I mean, I know that's taking the easy way out, but I just don't know. I mean, like Homa, he's been all the reasons you just said, but also he hasn't been that great over the past couple months. So it's like all these guys I feel like have a little bit of question marks. Like Finau, like he's really good, but do you think he's going to win this tournament? He doesn't win all that often. I mean, you're looking at Victor Hovland. I was worried about guys like Victor Hovland, where it's like you put so much into it the week before, and then to bounce back this week. I know he's young and he's like carefree and everything like that, but I always wonder how they're gonna bounce back after this call.
Like Scotty Scheffler, like him putting so much into it last week, it's not like he blew it at the last moment. You know what I mean? Victor Hovland blew it at the last moment. 16th hole, he's neck and neck with Brooks Koepka. He blows it, and you saw it in his post, round interview after round 4 there. He just looked deflated. Like he's a full on just wait and see kind of fade with him. Same thing with Finau. But Finau, I mean, if we're talking course history and stuff like that, in the last 5 years, he's second in total shots gained total at this event.
Well, his last 4 here, you're talking T4, T20, T23 second.
Exactly. I mean, if he's gonna get it right, I mean, maybe it's this course. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm fading Hovland. I'm fading Finau. I'm fading Morikawa. Homa, I might sprinkle in. I did bet Max Homa. I think he was like 22 or 28 to 1, which it was 22 to 1 on him. And I'm like, Max Homa in this field is way too good to have like the 7th or 8th best odds on him. So I did bet him. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's got to be Scotty Scheffler, doesn't it?
I think so. It does for sure. Did you have anybody else that stuck out in the pricing to you that was kind of like, I don't want to say free square, but like a must play?
Oh, a must play wise. Not in the top of the board. There's some lower end guys when we get down to the bottom that I did like. I'm kind of surprised at the 9K range. I think some of these guys, I know it's a weaker field, but like Jordan Spieth has got the wrist issue still. Tommy Fleetwood never wins golf tournaments anymore. Justin Rose is a name that, if you want to use the term free square, like 9,300 isn't cheap. What was he? I bet him already too. I got really 30 to 1 to win, 9,300. They're not like crazy numbers. But Justin Rose, outside of the missed cuts after his win earlier this year, has been one of the best golfers on tour. He's a great positional golfer. He loves shorter courses. I just see him cruise. Like, he might be my favorite play to win this week, outside of Scotty Scheffler.
So in the last 5 years here too, he has a win, a T3 and a T20 in the last 5 years here. So good course history. Playing probably the best he's played in 5 years right now.
I mean, it's insane how great he's playing right now. And even on a long course like last week at the PGA Championship at Oak Hill, he still played pretty well. And it just goes to show I love how slow he is when he's on the tee box. He
He just
dips
doesn't
his
make
shoulder
mistakes.
down. He
Yeah.
just he just goes about his business. He did have, I think it was in the third round, he made like a double bogey one hole, and then he just made par, birdie,
Steady.
birdie. Just it didn't rattle him at all. Um, I think Justin Rose might be the winner of this event this week.
Yeah, I love that call too. So Scotty, Rose, and Eric Cole were actually the three guys that stuck out the most to me.
I
Cole
love
just
Cole.
he just seems like he's not phased by any of this at all. Like he just goes to these big boy courses. He contend. I mean, he didn't really contend, but he was okay. He was leading after 15 holes. I mean, it's just I don't know. He seems like he's just not afraid, and I like him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like he was fifth at the Mexico Open. You know what I mean? Like, some of these events that he's had some missed cuts this year, but like a lot of his good tournaments this year were weaker fields. It's not like he was contending, and then he goes out and he gained almost 9 strokes tee to green at the PGA Championship. Almost 3 on approach, almost 5 on around the green. Around the green play is I think something that's going to be underlooked this week is an important factor because another reason not to like Victor Hovland. Because they're, I think I read the 4th or 5th smallest greens on tour here at Colonial. So you're going to miss a lot of greens. You got to be really good around the green. Eric Cole does that well. I think Eric Cole is a slam dunk play this week.
He's also had some events too, like the Honda played really tough. I mean, he finished second. The field was terrible, but he finished second. I mean, 27th at the Players, like for 7,200. I mean, this guy's not scared. So I don't know. I think he's mispriced big time this week.
So I've been reading a lot about putting and around the green and bogey avoidance and those things being really important. So and obviously being accurate off the tee with the narrow fairway, shorter positional. So I really lean towards and I want to pull up before I say his name, his course history again because I think he's made 2 of 4 cuts or maybe 3 of 4 cuts here. Hold on 1 second. He made 2 of the last 3 cuts here, and that's Denny McCarthy. Finished 29th at PGA, 8th at Wells Fargo. He's he's the 4th best putter in the field, probably. Maybe the best putter in the field. He's accurate off the tee. He's not super long. What are your thoughts on Denny McCarthy? He's 8,700 on DraftKings. He's 60 to 1 to win the event. Do you like Denny McCarthy at all this week?
I do. Kind of a mixed history here, but I mean, in theory, I mean, everybody's saying putting matters so much this week. He's one of the best putters on the tour. I definitely like him. He's been steady. T29 last week, T8 at the Wells Fargo, T25 at Heritage. Like he's been pretty solid. Like, do I think he can win? No, I worry a little bit about his upside, but I just feel like he fits what you need to do here.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I'm playing with him. He's played decent this year. I see a lot of people jumping on the Cam Davis train this week, saying this is a Cam Davis week, and I know he's got 2 top 10s in his last 3 events, 3 in his last 5. I just something about him. He missed like 6 or 7 cuts earlier this year. I think there's going to be a spot where Cam Davis is going to get all the love at 8,600, and then Denny McCarthy, who puts the ball really well and hits it in the fairway, and he would almost be kind of similar to Justin Rose in the sense where just an even Steven kind of guy. You can get a lot more value out of Denny McCarthy than what everybody's hyping up Cam Davis with.
Well, people love Cam Davis too. I mean, especially when he came out and said that he'd missed all those cuts in a row because of the illness. It's like I think everybody thought like, okay, he's better than this, but like since he's come back, it's been a complete mixed bag. I mean, he came back at the Players 6th, missed the cut at the Valero, 7th at Heritage, 59th at Wells Fargo, 4th at PGA. So it's like it's a lot of this. It's like 59th, 6th, 4th. It's like every other week almost like with him. So I agree with you on that too. I think if he gets really popular this week, I think that's going to be a fade.
We were talking earlier. Who would you be? Who could you care less if he left for the Live Tour? And I'm probably gonna make like the boldest statement ever here right now. And it wasn't one of the choices I put on there. And nobody commented in his name and other. But in this range, in this field, he's in it. He's a Texas boy. And honestly, I don't care about watching him anymore. And I know he's better, and I know you're a fan of him. But Jordan Spieth, with the wrist issue, he's not a play. But honestly, I could care less about. Like, I don't enjoy watching Jordan Spieth. Am I an awful golf fan for not being a Jordan Spieth fan?
No, because I think a lot of people don't like him. But I think
really,
I feel like he's polarizing. I feel like because he's got the commentary all the time like that. I don't know. I feel like he's good for the game, but
I don't like his caddy either. His caddy looks like
Michael?
I think he just thinks I think he rubs me as a very smug person as caddy. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't he a teacher? He's got that
He was a
I'm
science
smarter
teacher.
than you because I was a
Yeah,
teacher, attitude. Like I could
yeah.
care less. But either way, everybody says play Texas guys on Texas courses. Um, I'm not sold on Jordan Spieth. I know he made the cut. He struggled most of the weekend at the PGA. I still think the injury's there, and in this field, I think there's a lot of better options than playing Jordan Spieth.
Well, and I don't think he plays if it's not Texas. He missed the
Oh
last.
yeah,
He missed the last Texas event. He didn't in Dallas. He doesn't want to miss this event too. So
yeah. All right. What other names do we got on this board that you like this week?
there's not a heck of a lot that really jump out. There's some guys in the lower 7Ks that are interesting to me. Hayden Buckley's been pretty damn good lately. Mentioned Cole already. There's
What about Sam Stevens? Because him and Cole have been kind of at different parts this year trending upward. And Sam Stevens, he had good scores at weaker events, third at Punta Cana, second at Valero, but he still, even though he's like a lesser known name, he still was able to make the cut at the PGA Championship. And I know, like, I'm looking at his numbers now. I mean, lost 4.5 strokes tee to green, lost a couple on approach, lost a couple around the green.
pretty much lost across
Most
the
likely
board.
that was most likely around the weekend. Most likely that was on Saturday when it was just torrential downpours. Like Sam Stevens in this kind of a field at 7,100, I'm like, he can easily do better than last week, this week.
I just feel like he's meant for like a Punta Cana kind of event. Like he finished third in Punta Cana, 15th.
That's what I thought about Eric Cole about like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah. I mean, and I could see that too. But I feel like, I don't know, Stevens is like, I feel like the perfect example of like when the field sucks, he's good. When the field's tough, he's not gonna play for me. I know people love him, and I think a lot of it's because Pat Mayo loves him and he talks about him all the time. But I just feel like he's not as good as people think he is.
I get from my man Kyle. I got to look up Justin Sue because he loves him some Justin Sue. You would think with the way Justin talks about.
I almost said the name just because I saw him talking about it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually a pretty good guy. I mean,
he is a good golfer.
Considering he's only 7,100 on the board, and I'm looking at his stats now over the last. I mean, 26 at the PGA Championship, gained strokes across the board, gained 3.5 strokes putting. He hasn't lost strokes putting since his 5th place. He lost strokes putting with his 5th place at the Honda. But that was the only time he's lost strokes since the Sony Open. He has gained between 1.2 and 4.4 strokes every single round outside of the Honda Classic putting. So if this is a putting event, Justin Sue might be a good play at that super, super cheap price.
Yeah, I don't mind that play. Justin Sue is a good golfer. He really is.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a couple other guys that I feel like at this end. Matthew Neesmith has been playing pretty damn good lately. He's interesting to me.
I didn't even know he was in the PGA Championship until I saw it pop up on my screen on Saturday.
It's
and like, guys, I'm like, I didn't even know he made the cut. I didn't know he was in the field last week. He was so far from my board. He's made 4 straight cuts, Neesmith.
Yeah. He's interesting to me. Vincent Norman's interesting to me too. Just another guy that, I mean, he seems like he plays only the easier courses, but I mean, pretty solid over the past few months for him. So, yeah, he's interesting.
Michael Block, 6,900.
Michael Block. Hard pass for me.
Hard pass. Hard pass.
What about your boy, Austin Eckroat?
Austin Eckroat, he has not been my boy this year. We'll just say that. Ben Martin down there, he was a guy that I thought was going to take some steps forward this year. Yeah. Hasn't really done it consistently. Aaron Rai, another guy that I thought was going to take some steps forward. Terrible putter, but he's down in this range. Ben Griffin, guy that I thought was going to take steps forward, hasn't done it. But what about the others? The big popular name on tour this year was how do you say his name? Akshay Bhatia? 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 Basha? Bhatia? Okay. What do you thought? I mean, he's another one that's, high peaks and really low valleys so far in his first full year on tour. Maybe he's a guy, didn't play last week. Do you take anything into account, the guys that did play last week at a grind like that with the weather? Do you take into account the guys that missed the cut and didn't have to grind through that Saturday rainstorm? Do you take any of that into account this week?
The only thing I take into account from a tournament like last week, honestly, is lesser guys that played well. And I know that that's going to say, okay, Michael Block. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, like real professional golfers that it's huge for a guy to come out, a lesser guy to come out and finish 10th or, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? I feel like that's a huge confidence booster. So I do a little bit, but I don't put a ton into it. Interesting guy for me, 6,300. Carson Young. I mean, that's just his price seems off. I mean, T14 at Byron Nelson, T15 at the Mexico Open, T19 at Heritage, miscut at Wells Fargo. But I mean, it's pretty solid for a $6,300 golf.
I thought you were gonna. You said you're going low there. I thought you were gonna give me the one I had. A two-time former champion at this event. Is 6,200, and he actually made the cut at the PGA Championship, and he's a really good putter, and that's Zach Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. So he 23rd last year at this event, 32, 43. He missed two cuts in 18 and 19. But besides that, so he's played here every year since 2010. So that's 12 years. He only missed two cuts. He's got 2 wins. He's got 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, 7 top 25s in 12 years. If you're going to go for a course horse, play Scotty Scheffler with Zach Johnson.
Oof.
I mean, just think about it this way. You could take, so I don't know how you think about this, and I'm trying to debate this because I've been struggling a lot with the golf game, lately, and, picking winners and stuff like that and winning lineups. It's a 120-person field. It's an invitational. Top 65 in ties. It means about 70 to 75 guys are going to make the cut. That means a lot of people are going to make the cut. High percentage. Can you take bigger chances, or do you just want to go for as much sure thing as possible?
No, I think you can take bigger chances for sure.
I think Zach Johnson paired with Scotty Scheffler is a chance I'm willing to take.
I was going to comment too because I thought Zach Johnson was from Texas, but he is not. He's from Iowa, so irrelevant.
Big difference there. Major difference there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's some steals. I think you make a great point of Carson Young.
He might be really popular though this week. Because I've heard. I know Rick Run Good was talking about him already. I'm sure Mayo's going to talk about him. So
I mean, right now he's already at 10% on Fantasy National, and you know how their numbers are off by about 5-10% sometimes. On Monday afternoons, Tuesday mornings. So there's a good chance Carson Young gets that 12. If somebody wants to play Scotty Scheffler and say Victor Hovland or Tony Finau, and then combo that with Zach Johnson and Carson Young,
that's probably the definition of a sweet spot.
Talk about a stars and scrubs lineup.
Yeah.
Going 2 guys under 6,300 and 2 guys in the 10K above range. I mean, that's stars and scrub right there.
Do it.
So anyway, did you bet anybody this week? Do you have anything? I mean, it's early in the week, so I know you don't have. No,
I haven't bet anybody yet.
I make my 5 initial bets, and I always leave room for 1 extra. Like I said, I already bet Max Homa and Rose and Denny McCarthy. So 22, 30, and 60. And I don't like them for DFS purposes because I kind of feel like everybody has just been on his bandwagon all year. And he's played really good all year, but not great. And he missed the cut last week, and that's Ricky Fowler. I think he could win this event, hypothetically. He's a great approach player, great iron player, solid putter still. But I don't know if I trust. I kind of feel like Ricky Fowler could miss the cut. But I also think he could win the event. So his floor to ceiling is so wide. I like him as a bet at 28-1. And I bet Emiliano Grillo as well in this event. Wow. I know he's not a great putter. I know that. But I'm pretty sure he's got damn good course history here. He's got a 3rd, a 19th, an 8th, and a 63rd in his 4 of the last 5 years here. So he missed 1 cut, but 4 of the last 5 years, 3 top 20s, 2 top 10s. Emiliano Grillo is a guy.
He's in good form too. I mean, he missed a cut last week, but I mean, you're talking T23, T5, and T7 the 3 weeks before that.
That's the problem.
What?
And, actually, even though he missed the cut last week, he gained strokes putting last week. Because actually, I'm looking at his numbers now. I didn't look at this part when I was making this bet. Since he lost 9.5 strokes putting at the Arnold Palmer, he's gained strokes putting 5 of the last 6 events he's played in. So there's something there. Maybe Emiliano Grillo, 71. So they're my 5 outrights right now. Leave room for 1 more. Homa, Fowler, Rose, McCarthy, Grillo. Yeah, I mean, kind of fun, It's nice that this event is finishing where it is, or put where it is, and getting the crowd and the turnout it is, because it is a really, I don't want to use the word legendary, but such a well-known course.
Yeah.
I would hate to see this week or this course not draw the crowd that it's drawing right now.
Right, and I think it's good for everybody too. It's good for viewers. It's good for DFS purposes. I mean, it makes you excited. Nobody wants to see when there's a major week and you're all amped up, and then as a DFS player, you come back the next week and there's just a crap field. This is actually a pretty good field. So
it's a great field, and it's great for the sport because now everybody's talking about golf. Everybody's talking about golf and Live. I'm surprised Live didn't randomly throw together an event this week just to combat, the momentum they're growing. Do you think Brooks Koepka winning the PGA Championship makes anybody tune into Live that hasn't before? Because it won't change my opinion. And from what I've seen on Twitter, I don't think it is. But the casual fan, maybe.
The casual fan, that's what I was going to say. The casual fan, I think that the diehards know, but I think the casual fans, and I think I'm starting to see kind of, I think people softening their stances on Live a little bit. Like you're seeing like people saying like, okay, we got to figure out something, and I agree with that. Like PGA and Live have to figure out something.
The show off with talking about that.
Yeah, so they got to figure out something. They need these guys.
What's the answer to you can't give them golf ranking points.
No.
You can't give them FedEx Cup points because they're 54-hole no-cut events. Do you tell does the PGA tell Live match us in rules, and then maybe, or is it simply where the Live golfers get the opportunity to play in X amount of events a year if they want to? If they want to play in 4 events a year outside the majors, they're allowed to if they qualify, or
that's what I see with the sponsor exemption.
How do you work it out? Because I keep seeing people saying they've got to work together, but you can't give them the golf ranking points for it.
No, I think that's a good point. What you just said too, like a sponsor exemption into tournaments. You know, like seeing DJ get in all the RBC events or whatever the case may be. Like I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question either. But I think they got to figure out something. I think you saw the effect that it has when they're all together this past week, and you saw it at the Masters too. I mean, you need these guys. You mentioned Brooks and DJ, and like Cam Smith was one that hurt bad, I thought, for the PGA Tour to lose. It was like
Cam Smith is. I mean, I was watching him contend again on Saturday. I know he slipped off on Sunday. Well, no, he came back on Sunday when he made his run, and I just forgot how great of a golfer Cam Smith was and how great of a putter he was. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think the PGA Championship also might have come out differently, and I think this is the final question for the show. I would love to ask your opinion. The thoughts of them playing through all that rain on Saturday. I mean, it wasn't like a little bit of steady rain. I mean, it was heavy rain for 9 hours straight. I think if that weather doesn't happen, we might have a different results this weekend, first off. But also, is it kind of unfair? Because, like, the guys teeing off later, I mean, some of those guys, the rain stopped during the final 2 or 3 groupings, back 9 there. Is it really even fair to play in that heavy of conditions where they're literally squeegeeing the greens after every single group comes off the green?
I don't think they would have done that had it not been a major. I think it would have for sure gone to a delay, but I think they were afraid of you needed that event to end on Sunday, right? You needed it for the viewers, you needed it for the casual fans, you needed it for everybody for that event to end on Sunday. You did not want to have a Sunday event or have to have these guys come out and play, 36 holes or 20 some odd holes.
Yeah. Well, they did that with the Masters. Maybe they did it for that reason. Then, all right. I mean, I think that's pretty fair right there. Any final parting thoughts on the Colonial this week? Or I keep calling it the Colonial. It's the Charles Schwab at Colonial. I saw at some point I got to figure that one out. But any final thoughts?
Not really.
Are you in on the Heroes this week?
Just kind of to echo what we already said. I think I'm pumped because it's a good field. I mean, I think this is an awesome course. I think we're going to see some really good, talented golfers this week again. So I'm excited for this tournament.
I would really love to see the PGA Tour. I don't care about the live stuff. The PGA Tour mimic some of these majors and find a way to give the fans better coverage of the events.
Yeah.
You have to pay for ESPN Plus to see anything before 3:00. Most events, you get 2 or 3 hours of coverage on TV, and then on Sundays, on Championship Sundays, you get maybe 3 hours on CBS or NBC. I think the PGA needs to work with their broadcasting partners to find a better. I mean, I always say just make the Masters app available, all year long because it's the best app in sports.
Yeah.
But even the PGA, I mean, they had coverage. I don't know if you watched any of it early on Saturday and Sunday, maybe even on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Maybe it was all 4 days. They had the Matty and the caddy. They had Matt Berry from ESPN and what's his name, the caddy, who shaved his beard, and I didn't even recognize him at first. Doing like Manning cast type coverage of golf. And that was entertaining. Like, give me more coverage like that, and people would tune in.
Well, I think that's the thing, too, is like, is there another sport or another event period that does a worse job of catering to their fans than the PGA? Like, I mean, the NFL does everything they can to make it the best experience for the fans. They're going to
now they're trying to screw that with a lot of the new rule changes.
Yeah. But I mean, like, same thing with the NBA. Like, you see, you get coverage of everything. You get the biggest teams playing on Christmas. You get the biggest, they do everything they can to market their stars, where it's like, PGA really doesn't do a very good job of marketing
Like,
their
they
game.
make it hard for a casual fan. Like me and you, we watch a lot of golf. We bet golf. We do DFS and all. But even I find it hard. Like, I'm not paying for ESPN Plus to
Right.
watch coverage at 10 o'clock of the Charles Schwab Challenge. You know what I mean? Like, but I would watch it if it was more easily accessible.
Well, I think too, like you see it like a casual golf fan, like my old man. It's like he's not going to sit there and watch the Golf Channel, but like he tunes into the end of the tournaments. But like even still, he's like you said, he's going to get 2 hours of coverage on a Sunday afternoon, evening. Like I mean,
Yeah.
like it's kind of crappy.
I mean, at least at a major, like the main network broadcast starts 2 hours before the leaders tee off.
Right.
Like, that's good coverage right there. You know, on the flip side, this week they might have already teed off by the time CBS or NBC takes over coverage this week, and that's a problem. That there's just not enough, accessibility to these games, and I just wish the PGA would, take a better stance at getting. I guarantee if they put it up for a bidding, some network would bid to have exclusive rights to give better coverage to the fans.
Exactly, 100%.
It's crazy. Anyway, we're going to wrap up Fairway to Heaven right there on the Philadelphia Sports Network. Justin Rose will win the Charles Schwab Challenge. Mark our words, because we both agree on that one. I don't know if we've ever 100% agreed on a person, but I think we kind of got it on this one.
It's weird that we didn't even talk about it, and we're both kind of
we kind of like paged right over him because we just both agreed he's such a great play this week. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up right there. We'll be back next week, right here, same time, same bat channel, Philadelphia Sports Network. For Jason Sullivan, I am Phil Stiefel. Let's go, Justin Rose.